Bring up. Use this phrasal verb to introduce a topic for conversation, or when talking about raising children. Here's bring up in the simple form. In the past tense, it's brought up, and the past participle is brought up. Bring up, brought up, brought up. She brought up a good point at the meeting. So she said something that was valuable and important to listen to. You'll often hear a good point used after bring up. These sentences are in the present tense. You bring up a good point. He brings up a good point. To change from the present tense to the past tense, use brought. You brought up a good point. He brought up a good point. As a teacher, I often have to bring up the issue of attendance. I can also use the word topic. I have to bring up the topic of attendance. The word issue is a little better in this case because it suggests that there's a problem with attendance. And that's why the teacher has to bring up the issue. Sometimes it's not a good idea to bring up the past. It's not a good idea to talk about something that happened in the past. It's not always a good idea to bring up the topic of politics. Here is the phrasal verb in the form of an infinitive, to bring up. Don't bring it up. This is very similar to don't say anything about that topic or about that issue. You can use bring up when talking about raising a child from childhood to adult. They brought up 5 children. Or you can say they raised 5 children. This has the same meaning. And this is in the past tense. Parents bring up their children to be good people. Or they try to bring up their children to be good people. Parents bring up their children to respect the law. Parents bring up their children to respect other people. Her parents brought her up in a strict household. Here is bring up. It's separated by this object. And you could use this when talking about a person whose parents did certain things in raising a child. She was brought up by strict parents. This sentence is in the passive voice, in the past tense. Where were you brought up? Or where were you raised? Both of these sentences are in the passive voice. And both of these sentences are asking the same question about the location where a person was raised from child to adult.